A ribbon of red wine knifed across the glittering room and crashed over a white dress shirt like a stroke of blood-red paint. Gasps rolled in waves. Dozens of phones snapped to record. The man didn't dodge. He took out a white handkerchief, dabbed his chin, looked up, and smiled. His voice was calm, clear enough for the ballroom to hear. "Perhaps we should reintroduce ourselves. My name is Jerome Washington. This morning, your husband and I signed a $1.5 billion agreement to rebuild communities." He paused half a beat. "And tonight, it ends." The glass fell from Vivian Blackwood's hand and shattered on the marble. That instant locked the most expensive 30 seconds of the night. One smile, one sentence, and the first crack in an empire. The grand Metropolitan Charity Gala burned with chandelier light. A string quartet braided music through the clink of crystal and the scent of expensive perfume. Jerome entered at 7:45 p.m., deliberately late, in a pared-back black tuxedo with nothing flashy. He moved like water through 400 power guests, lingering over paintings by inner-city students set out for the silent auction. He spoke about shadow and line with a silver-haired patron. The way he listened made people feel seen. Across the room, Vivian Blackwood had been watching, eyes used to controlling guest lists, a host who believed the room extended her reach. That morning at 9:47, on an ebony conference table, a Mont Blanc pen slid across the final page of a deal the market would call a pivot point. $1.5 billion aimed at urban renewal, affordable housing, small business corridors, school funds, vocational centers. Richard Blackwood breathed out like a man stepping off a sinking deck. "Jerome, you just saved my family's legacy." Blackwood Industries was reeling. 3 red quarters, tightening credit, investors on edge. For Washington Capital Group, it was exactly the vision, capital returning to the neighborhoods it came from. Jerome kept a habit his team knew by heart. Before pushing any massive partnership across the line, he went incognito to the partners' event. Not to nitpick and not to set traps, but to listen to what a room says when no one knows who you are, to see how people treat those they assume don't matter. He believes true character shows in unguarded moments. That afternoon, before the gala, he stopped at his old barber shop. A fogged mirror, hair tonic in the air, a battered radio mumbling weather. The barber trimmed around his ears and sighed. Rent up again, the shop next door about to close, families who'd been there 50 years were packing. Jerome simply listened and smiled. "I'll be back soon." He didn't flash power. He steadied his moral compass by standing where he started. Back at the gala, Vivian approached with a smile drawn tight as a string. Her perfume arrived before her words. "Do you have an invitation?" she asked, airy but edged. "Your event is beautiful," Jerome said. "I was invited, and I'm here to support the cause." Her next line turned sharper, from courtesy to exclusion. "We" and "they" crept into the syntax, as if a room could be split by glances. A few phones rose. The quartet hesitated just long enough for the voice of someone used to command to carry. "Some spaces are for people who truly contribute. You should be in the right place." Jerome stayed unruffled. In his mind, an invisible scale had just slammed to one side. The boundary cracked faster than he expected. Vivian reached for a glass of Bordeaux from a passing tray. Her arm hitched half a second, permission from herself, and then flung. Red wine sketched down Jerome's white shirt like spilled paint, stippling the marble at his feet. Cameras chimed. Live streams burst from the room like a public tribunal. He didn't budge. He drew a white handkerchief, dabbed, looked up, and smiled. Not submission, but the steadiness of a man who knew exactly what had happened and what came next. "Perhaps we should reintroduce ourselves," he said, even and clear. "I'm Jerome Washington." He let the name fall into the hush. "This morning, your husband and I signed $1.5 billion for housing, schools, and small business corridors. And tonight, it ends, because values decide who we build with." The glass slipped from Vivian's fingers and pinged into pieces, a period at the end of a sentence. The crowd held its breath. Somewhere, a silver fork hit stone. No one laughed. Within minutes, clips carpeted social feeds. Anonymized headlines detonated. Gala scandal. Deal in jeopardy. He smiled, then canceled. Executive inboxes flooded. Conference rooms lit up late. The phrases values risk and brand safety crept into every chat thread. That night, Jerome sat in his office, still in the wine-stained shirt, reading comms reports. The public was overwhelmingly with him for keeping dignity under fire. At the opening bell, Blackwood Industries shares gapped down hard and stuttered through volatility halts. Crowds bunched around tickers, watching candles drop like cut legs. By midday, the company filed an investor notice, termination of a material agreement. Jerome's fund posted a sentence, cold and sufficient. Misalignment of values. At the county prosecutor's office, an assault complaint opened. City police announced a review for a bias-motivated enhancement under state law. In corner offices high above the streets, emails about culture audits and code of conduct retraining landed in bulk. By day 2, the boardroom at Blackwood felt airless. A wall-mounted chart traced a search for bottom. Richard faced Jerome, eyes red from a sleepless night. We can fix this. A public apology, funding, a culture overhaul. Whatever it takes. Jerome set a stack of documents on the table. He didn't raise his voice. Partnerships require trust. Trust requires shared values. I can't tell my team and my investors that we'll build bridges with someone who torched one in public. He signed the termination. 30 tidy seconds. The sound of a coffin sealing. No shouting. Just pen on paper and the tight breathing of people who knew something had left their hands. The following days turned into a domino chart. Agent banks reevaluated credit lines. Project sites hung paused banners. Partners put talks on ice. Inside Blackwood, listening sessions finally appeared, years late. Under legal and public pressure, Vivian read a formal apology, not to salvage reputation, but to insert a comma into a sentence she'd punctuated with an exclamation mark. Jerome chose a different road. Transformation. Capital no longer bound for Blackwood was reallocated. University scholarships for kids from overlooked blocks, microloans for mom-and-pop shops, STEM labs in public schools, first home assistance. When the Washington Center for Dignity and Justice opened in a building that once bore the Blackwood name, the new sign felt like a vow. What's broken can be rebuilt. Properly. Afternoons at the center sounded like a small chorus. In a first-floor room, Aisha, 17, spread plans for a new community hub. We'll use the roof for gardens, with a stair straight into the kitchen. Jerome studied the lines and nodded. Excellent. You'll go far. Next door, a third-generation grocer signed a revolving loan to upgrade freezers, grinning as he capped the pen. Down the hall, a family of 5 stood at a blue-painted metal door. The young father turned a key to their first apartment, then pressed his wife into a wordless hug. Transformation doesn't erase the past, but it redirects the future. At the Blackwood home, nothing returned to normal. Richard taught a night class at a community college, business ethics. On the whiteboard, he wrote values risk. His voice was steady in a surprising way. Our collapse didn't begin with a wine glass. The glass exposed what we truly valued. Students sat still. Some took furious notes. Others stared at the word values, as if seeing it carry real price for the first time.
As for Vivian, she faced personal consequences as part of accountability. Some mornings, she did community service at a children's literacy center. Some afternoons, she listened to stories she once would have waved away. She didn't expect forgiveness. She hoped to learn how to be quiet when what's right needs room to be heard. Asked why he smiled that night, Jerome told a reporter, "If I'd answered with anger, it would have been a brawl. By smiling, it became a public lesson." He paused, then added, "Justice isn't revenge. It's turning an ugly moment into fuel for the future." The city learned the name Washington Center for Dignity and Justice the way it learns a good habit.
Kids came to do homework, tradespeople upskilled, longtime residents found advice to keep from being priced out. In the lobby hangs a black and white photo shot from above, marble floor, a splash of red wine, a fallen glass, and a white handkerchief raised to a chin. It isn't sensational. It's a reminder that a public mistake can destroy, but a measured response can save more than we imagine. A journalist once asked Jerome if he regretted canceling $1.5 billion. He smiled. Regret choosing the right people to build with? No, we're not short on projects, we're short on partners who share values. Business schools copied the quote onto slides about reputational and values risk. Several major firms baked a character test into diligence, not a cheap morality quiz, but real listening, measurable commitments, ethics clauses that lock like vaults. Late most nights, Jerome leaned on the second-floor rail and looked down at three boys playing chess under warm light. In their laughter, he heard what he'd believed when he signed the termination. Money can flow to places that deserve it. Opportunity can pivot. Dignity can win if the hand that holds the pen is steady enough to redirect the current. 1 glass of wine, 15 minutes, billions rechanneled from exclusion to inclusion, and in the middle of it all, one unruffled smile saying what words never could. Dignity wins.